Man, I love that opening. I freaking love it. What a great job he did. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Sporking News Podcast. My name is Scott, and this is a stream by the Crossroads. It is our Game of Thrones reread. And tonight, guys, we are on the last three chapters of the first book in the Song of Ice and Fire series, and that is Game of Thrones. So, good job, everybody. Yay. Good job. All right, and we're going to go around the panel and see how everybody's doing this evening. And we will start with Lady Tauriel. How are you?
Waking up. Good evening, everyone. I'm doing okay.
Fantastic. And just so people know that, Lady Tauriel is on her phone, so she might drop in and out, and that's okay. Jayne is dealing with the weather, so in electricity, so she might drop in and out, but that's okay too. And we'll go down to Jayne. Jayne, how is everything?
Hey guys, everything's going really good right now. Thanks. I'm just excited to be here and ready for tonight's chapters.
Fantastic. And Miss Martin Muses, how are you?
Well, I am doing fine, thank you.
Good. Ready for some good conversation with the last three chapters?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then last but not least, the true king, Stig Baratheon Kenobi.
And Lord of Dragonstone, Master of Ships, King of Westeros, Lord of Storms, and King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Man, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm.
And that was it. Okay, I thought you would do. Okay.
Anyone who denies that are my foes. Let no man claim ignorance as a defense till bend the knee, or I will destroy them. Isn't it right, Sir Davos?
He's the king of Westeros. Fantastic. I love doing it. I don't know why.
I should add more, acid to it.
Yeah, that pause took me off guard, though. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh my God, did I screw up?
No. I forgot what I was supposed to say. So I was like, there's something about foes and
right.
That's the best
Nothing
part.
wrong with that. Exactly. So
I almost just dropped, a simple F-bomb.
And that's okay too. I think I would say maybe only 30% of my streams are ever monetized anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it one bit. But let's say hello to who's in the chat.
Hello there.
Hello there. No, I love this stream because it's like the same group of people. It's not like one of the bigger chats we have, but it's like a close-knit chat and everybody knows each other. And right off the rip, we have emotionally unstable Amphibian saying, hail, ladies and gentlemen. And the first four people I'll be showing you are actually channel members. So that's why they're green with the little thing next to their name. Tina Bojan is good evening, friends. Good evening,
Hey, Tina.
Hey, Tina.
Lady Tauriel. How do you say it? Can you do it for us? Megavanen?
It's Megavanen.
Megavanen, everyone.
Yeah, it means well met.
Well, okay. I think you told me that last week, and you guys know how bad I am with people's names and words. English is supposed to be my first language. I have issues with it. Who Knew is here, and he says, hail, everybody. One of my favorite names in the game, Brutal Morningwood. Hail, and a heartfelt hey, howdy, hey. I like that. McKinney 90 is becoming one of probably the number one. Him and Tommy, best mods in the game
ever.
He also has a great channel, great Teespring, fantastic Twitter, and I hope he's sharing all that throughout any of my streams. Anytime you're on here, man, please do. So guys, if you're not subscribed or you're watching this later and not subscribed, please check him out. And then we have, let's see, I think that might be it, unless I haven't caught up. Did I miss anybody? I don't think I did. All right. Oh, Parrothead. Parrothead says that Yeah. Parrot Head says what you get for eating paint chips. Okay. I mean, that sounds about right. And Zacharat315 says howdy and to everybody on the panel. All right. And Sam, of course, Sam, who has his own channel now. So please check him out. Him and Nick both putting out some content, and I really dig it. I think I'm going to put this backwards. Either I was Sam's 4th or 5th sub, and I was Nick's like 11th sub, but that's okay. I didn't get in the top 10 with one of the guys. So here we are, guys. We're finally at the end of a Game of Thrones. What do you guys, Stig, what were you saying before backstage about thinking before we did these streams starting back in April, before we did these, you thought there were filler chapters, but now?
No, I thought other people, like the minions in the chat, thought there were filler chapters, but I never did. Yeah, it's very clear when we've been doing this stuff that no chapter is pointless. It always foreshadows something that's going to happen, or it gives hints of what's going on, things like that. And this is why it takes so much time to write. I mean, he's at book 6 now, right? And there's I don't know 400 or 500 characters. And imagine just keeping track of who has said what to who. Right. I mean, he's even on two different continents.
Yeah. He's created an actual alternate universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is pretty insane if you think about it. Like I've always loved history, and what I do now is I'm actually researching the history of A Song of Ice and Fire, of Westeros, of Essos, and trying to pick out like little phrases someone left, 10,000 years ago, what it could mean to the story. I think that's unbelievable. I just, what he did, he went really far with it. What are you saying there, Stig?
Well, to compare it to, if we compare it to the Star Wars universe, that one has a rich history too. But
I was about to say that
George only created the 6 movies. Other writers and stuff created all the lore around it and all the the expanded universe and stuff. So it was piles of people. George has done this himself alone. Right.
I mean, you guys are some of you guys are big fantasy readers. Who would you say Tolkien and who else? James, maybe Jordan, who created a rich history like he did? And is he number 1, number 2 in your mind? What do you think?
I think Tolkien and Martin are tied for number 1, but Tolkien is still on top because he finished his work.
Right.
When
I was going to say,
done, then maybe he will be better. I don't know, but it's okay to like both.
What's that now, Teresa?
I was just saying, for me, Tolkien is king. Even if Martin does finish, I think what Tolkien accomplished, especially with the languages and all that, he went even deeper and richer than Martin did.
I didn't think of that. I didn't think about the languages. In my view, Tolkien created, well, just real quick, I was going to say Tolkien created, he did create the languages and stuff, but he didn't go into the workings of how the kingdoms run and taxation and laws and religions as much. But he did create almost like a Bible where George created a mythos and more of a ambiguous, depending on who wrote it. There's flaws. There's people's objective, thoughts in there. So they're completely different to me, but yet Tolkien was first. I mean, but I love George. I just love George. Go for it, Stig.
Yeah, well, like Teresa said, Tolkien did the language bit, and that's a huge point in Tolkien's direction. But then again, you have Martin, who created all those houses and the bloodlines. He went deeper on that end than Tolkien, but I think maybe Tolkien created a Bible and Martin created a history book.
That's a good way of putting it.
That is a good way to put it.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I always I don't know about you, Lady Tauriel. I always took the Silmarillion as like a Bible. To me, it's like, it sounds like when you're reading it, it's like a Bible kind of like on the first day, he created the elves or whatever. But when it comes to George, I feel like I'm reading a history that we don't know clear enough. There's a lot of missing pieces to that history. What do you think, Lady Tauriel?
Tolkien, yes, Silmarillion is a hard read for people. Interesting in the depths and everything that he's created. Martin, I think he likes to give hints, and he always likes the mystery about it. He always leaves you wanting more.
Mm-hmm. He also said, Lady Tauriel, there are some things he'll just never answer too. So it leaves it to the imagination.
And that's best for the reader, because you can read into it whatever you want, or like we've been doing, having all the discussions on it could be this, could be that, depending on how you read it and your perception of what you're reading.
Right.
The other thing too is that all over his world, all of the cities, all of the peoples, they all have their own histories. They have their own stories. They have their own legends and lineages and customs and myths and misinformation. It's like he really treated his world as if it were the real world. It's nearly as in depth. It's just amazing to me.
Well, if you think about it, our true history only goes back 3,500 years. His goes back about 12,000. So in a way, he's giving us more account of what happened than we actually get. Ours is kind of, we were hunter-gatherers, and then all of a sudden we started building stuff, which I don't believe. But what were you going to say, Miss Martin Muses?
Oh, I wasn't saying anything. Oh,
okay. You were agreeing.
I was trying to say something, though.
Oh, go for it, Stig.
Well, first off, if the writer doesn't believe what he's writing is real, then neither will the reader, right?
Right.
But Tauriel touched on something. She said Martin writes as a mystery. He does, and that's where the difference is, because there's no mystery in the Lord of the Rings. He tells you flat out, yeah, this is the heir to Gondor. It's Aragorn.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. There's no real. Well, there's some foreshadowing, but there's no mystery. It's very
He doesn't set it up, right? He doesn't set up something with a little phrase in book 1 that affects book 3 major.
Yeah. So it's like you said, that they're completely different, but they're both 10 out of 10 writers, right?
Right. I personally think George is a better writer, but that is not a slight at Tolkien, because Tolkien he was a language, student. He didn't plan on writing books. It just started happening. And George was inspired by him. So a lot of the times, the student becomes a little greater than the teacher, but that doesn't belittle what the teacher gave us. And what Tina's saying here is, I watched a great video today that stated Tolkien didn't believe he was writing fantasy. Instead, he thought he was writing a true mythology of pre-Roman Saxons. He wanted to create a mythology. He didn't believe it was real. He wanted to create a mythology as rich as the Greeks, as rich as the Romans, but for England. So yes, in a way, you're absolutely right.
And that shows too how much more narrow his perspective was, because with George, it's far more expansive. It's like recreating the history of everywhere,
right? Of a whole planet. Yeah. What were you going to say, Miss Martin Muses?
Oh, I was going to say, just in reference to the true myth. He did talk about true myth, but he was talking about that in terms of his own faith.
Gotcha.
That there is myth, that there is truth in myth, but the true myth was, Jesus and all that stuff.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. I'm telling you right now, I saw that movie Tolkien, and that was just awesome. I don't know how close to the true history of Tolkien's life that was, but just World War I and what he went through, and just really cool movie of how he created this world.
They skipped the part where skipped how his faith affected him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's something they jumped over, which they shouldn't have.
Yeah, I've never
it was
until
essential to him.
Teresa just until Teresa, you just said that. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, the whole faith, he wrote it as a Catholic work because that was what it was very much at his soul. That's what he always called the Lord of the Rings, and
Right.
it permeated his entire life. He was incredibly devout, and to kind of try to skip over that in the movie, it's just like leaving out a person's like soul,
Right.
Like who they are, who their motivation is.
Right. That's pretty neat. And I mean, reading the Silmarillion is like kind of reading a boring version of the Bible. It's sometimes tough to get through. I've tried. George, though.
Oh, I thought that was
don't get me wrong.
I love this.
I enjoy it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not a very strong reader. So if it's not grabbing my attention, there was parts of it that, he was just naming this guy did this and that. And I didn't know what I was reading at the time because I picked up the Silmarillion after I read the trilogy once, and I was trying to. I had a rough. Maybe I'll have to go back and give it another chance.
Yeah, you have to read it a couple times.
Yeah, you need to read it in context. Yeah, because otherwise, it's very different.
I will try that. Yeah, it was rough. It was rough for me.
Hobbit and the Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings, and Unfinished Tales. I don't like
the Unfinished. Now that's Chris putting that together, right? His son Christopher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good stuff. One thing I did find pretty neat is that George did say, and this is just George talking because he is in his early 70s, that when he finishes A Song of Ice and Fire, he does want to play around with more of the Dunk and Egg stuff and finish the Fire and Blood volumes, but he does want to do a Gurmarillion. So his version of the Silmarillion for the history.
A Gurmarillion?
A Gurm. So GRRM.
GRRM.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. GRRM for, George R.R. Martin. So a lot of people abbreviate his name that way, Gurm. So I thought that was pretty funny, but we'll have to, next week guys, it's the end of this book. We're not going to go right into the next book in the series. We're going to jump and talk about the Hedge Knight, which is one of the Dunk and Eggs tales. We may have a special guest on next week, so that'll be pretty cool. Depending on his timing. But he's a fan of this awesome group of people I put together, this panel. So I'm hoping we could talk about, the Hedge Knight, but also the effect the Hedge Knight has on the current story we're reading and the history of Westeros. So it will be a spoiler stream. And then, if we keep doing Hedge Knight the next week, we might make that a little less non-spoilery. But, really all I'm trying to do, and I don't know if you guys agree, is keep the Song of Ice and Fire books that we're doing, those spoiler-free until we're up to, George releasing The Winds of Winter. All right. So,
yeah, sure.
All right, cool. Who has the first chapter? We have John, we have Catelyn, and we have Danny closing us out. Who has John? That was you, correct, Stig?
I have the bloody first chapter.
Right.
It's about a mile.
Right. It is long. It is long. Now, for you guys are all, in the chat, you're pretty much usual, regulars here. But for anybody else seeing this at a later date, we do take the summary from Westeros.org, which is like the wiki of Fire and Ice. And we use their summary and then we discuss. So whenever you're ready, Stig.
Yeah. Okay. Gather around, everyone, sporking and ladies, and sit on my lap while I read.
I just had a visual there. That was awesome. That was all. I had a visual of all the ladies on one knee and me on the other.
Oh my gosh.
They'll bend the knee, but it's my knee. Sorry. Okay, I'll start now. Synopsis. Late at night, John saddles his mare in the stables of Castle Black. As he mounts up, Sam appears in the doorway, insisting that John cannot do this. John warns Sam to get out of the way, since he does not want to hurt him. When the fat boy refuses, John, the bastard, spurs his horse and forces Sam to leap out of the way. Stumbling and falling, the mare leaps over Sam as he heads south down the King's Road. John hopes that Sam has not hurt himself getting out of the way. The whole castle is silent, and there is no one to see him leave. All the sentries are atop the wall looking north. John trusts that Sam loves him enough to give him a head start. In truth, he does not believe the timid boy can summon the courage to disturb the guards to wake the Lord Commander in the night. As he rides, John flexes his burnt hand and his buttocks, appreciating having the bandages off. John stays on the King's Road in the moonlight, knowing that he must get as far from Castle Black as he can before dawn, planning to then go overland to confuse the pursuit. When he fails to bring the Lord Commander's breakfast at dawn, they will search his cell, discover Longclaw, and know he has deserted. It was hard to leave the sword, but in the end, John followed Jorah Mormont's example. The thought of betraying old Jorah Mormont's trust bothers John, but it cannot be helped. John is still not sure he's doing the honorable thing. John thinks that the Southerners have it easier. They can talk to their septons to help sort out right from wrong, whereas the Hartrees do not talk. Once out of sight of Castle Black, John slows his pace to spare the horse. He hopes to trade her for a new one, and cannot do that if she's injured or blown. He will also require an entire new set of clothes. His black wool, leather, and steel will draw the suspicions of everyone north of the Neck. Once Maester Aemon's raven takes flight, not even Winterfell will offer refuge to him. That's 10%. Yet fond of Winterfell. Yet fond memories of Winterfell are not why John has forsaken his vows. He is his father's son and Rob's brother. Maester Aemon was right about the pain of choosing, but Tyrion Lannister was also right about denying a hard truth. John is done with denying the truth. For the rest of his life, he will be accursed and outcast, but it will be worth it so long as he lives long enough to join Robb in avenging their father. John even envisions the moment he will reveal himself to Robb, yet those visions stall at Robb's reaction. John cannot picture his brother smiling. John's mind flashes to the deserter that their father beheaded, and to what his father told him. The deserter told the deserter about vows. He wonders what his father's reaction might have been if that deserter had been his brother Benjen. He thinks it must be different. The thought of being rejected and executed does not bear thinking about, so John begins riding harder again, as if to outrun his doubts. He does not fear death, but he does not want to die like that. He's not a true Stark, but he can die like one. Let them say there were 4 sons. John approaches the lights of Molestown. Ghost disappears, apparently to go hunting. John does not concern himself, knowing the dire wolf will follow at his own pace. Once he is well beyond the village, John stops to drink runoff from the snow and finds his fingers ache worse than they have in days, and he has a pounding headache. Since his horse is lathered, he walks. John still has not seen his wolf, and it concerns him. He decides to eat a sparse meal to give Ghost a chance to catch up. As he's finishing, John hears horses coming from the north. Knowing they are too close to outrun, John quickly takes cover with the horse in a grove of sentinel trees off the road. As the riders ride up, John quickly recognizes the voices of the boys of his former training syndicate: Gren, Pip, Toad, Holder, and Mathor. John's mare snorts, and Holder hears it as the others argue about where John might be, and asks the others to be quiet. John realizes that Sam did not go to the Lord Commander, but he did not go to sleep either. John is concerned that the other boys will be named deserters if they are not in their beds by dawn. Just as the boys are about to pass him, Ghost comes loping through the woods and spooks John's horse, giving away his position. Halfway there, John tries to flee, but the boys are on him before he can. He draws his sword and attempts to frighten them into backing down, but the boys are unafraid. John demands to know what they want, and they explain that they are here to take him back where he belongs. John insists that he belongs with his brother Rob, but the others remind him that they are his brothers now. John wonders why they cannot leave him in peace. They start reciting their vows, John cursing them. Pip moves his horse closer, and the others surround him. Pip grabs the reins and tells John that he must either come back with them or kill them. John knows he can easily kill them all, but agrees to go back, cursing them all. Ghost comes out of the trees, and John glares at him, but Ghost's eyes seem to have a knowing look. Pip notes that they have to hurry back before first light, otherwise the Lord Commander will have all their heads. They make it back an hour before dawn. To John, it no longer seems like a home, and he decides he will bide his time before his next attempt and avoid the King's Road next time. The next morning, as John is serving breakfast, the Lord Commander reminds John of his comment that the things men love destroy them, and that the hard truths are the ones to hold tight. Then he comments that John looks weary and asks if his moonlight ride was exhausting. John expresses his surprise. Mormont explains that Maester Aemon told him that John would leave, and that he told Aemon that John would come back. He adds that he knew honor would bring John back, and John points out that his friends brought him back, but Mormont replies that he did not say it was John's honor. He then tells John that he had a watch put over him, and that if his friends had not brought him back, he would have been taken anyway. John thinks his life is forfeit and declares that he is not afraid to die. Mormont says he hopes John is not afraid to live either, pointing out that if they beheaded every man who rode to Molestown for the night, only ghosts would guard the wall. Mormont also notes that John is plotting to desert again. When John keeps silent, Mormont asks if he can actually bring his father back to life or make any difference to Rob's war. Each of Rob's battermen command more swords than the entire Night's Watch. Mormont goes so far as to point out that his own sister, Mage, and her daughters rode south with Rob, but that his place is at the wall. Mormont asks where John believes his place is. John thinks that he has no place, no mother, and no father, but only says he does not know. Mormont says that he knows John's place. The cold winds are rising. Cotter Pike's men have reported mammoths and huge misshapen tracks near East Watch. Dennis Mallister has reported that the wildlings are abandoning their villages near the Shadow Tower, and Corin Halfhand has taken a captive who revealed that Mance Raider, the king beyond the wall, is massing his people in some secret stronghold for an unknown purpose. Then the Lord Commander asks John if he thinks his brother's war is more important than theirs. He also asks Jon if he thinks it matters who sits on the Iron Throne when dead men come hunting in the night. Jon has to agree. He has never thought of it that way before. Mormont goes on to say that he believes Jon and ghosts were meant to be here because the blood of the first men who built the wall is strong in the Starks of Winterfell. They remember things other men have forgotten. In addition, ghosts led them to the two whites. Like some men, like Sir Jeremy Ricker, might call that happenstance, but Mormont stresses that Sir Jeremy is dead and he is alive. He wants Jon and Ghost with him when they go beyond the wall. He wants to find Benjen Stark alive or dead. When Jon asks what he means, Mormont declares that he will not sit weakly and wait for the snow to come. The Night's Watch will ride in force against the wildlings, the others, and whatever else is out there. Mormont plans to command them himself. He continues that the Lord Commander Stewart also serves as his squire, but he does not want to be looking over his shoulder. Therefore he asks Jon, "Are you a brother of the Night's Watch, or only a bastard boy who wants to play at war?" Jon pauses to apologize mentally to all his family before declaring that he is Mormont's man, and that he will not run again. Mormont expresses his approval and orders Jon to put on his sword again. The bloody end.
So much stuff, though, Stig. So much good stuff that I'm glad you read the whole thing. Lady Tauriel, I want to start with you, and then Miss Martin Muses next, because you guys are going through the book. You know, you don't have to do that. All right. Miss Martin Muses, what caught your eye in that chapter?
Well, I liked the inner monologue that was going on with Jon when he was trying to escape. And I found it very fascinating how much he sucked at running away.
Right.
And it was really obvious what the symbolism was when Ghost wouldn't come with him. It's like, where the heck is Ghost? You know, Ghost wasn't by his side. It's like, because that's not where you're supposed to be, you dummy. You know,
right.
So I really enjoyed that part. And also,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and also the idea is like, that's no longer your family. Your family is now the Night's Watch. Your brothers, your family are them. And how many times do you have to hear it, man? So
right, but I think in that moment, that is Mormont saying, this is the moment where, like, yes, you said your vows and you did this and you did that, but now it's being tested. Are you one of us or not? And I thought that was pretty deep, that part right there.
I think too, Mormont probably knew that alone, simply taking the vow and this being your new family by itself wouldn't have been enough.
Right.
And I think that's why he appealed to the importance of the Starks and Stark blood in that place at that time to fight this coming threat that threatened everything, their entire civilization and his family. By staying and fighting this coming war, he is protecting his family. And I think that's really what probably changed Jon's mind.
Right. I mean, I like that because, when he says, is it more important who sits on the Iron Throne or when dead men pretty much walk above us? Like, if we don't defend the wall, which we've been doing for thousands of years, it doesn't matter who's on the Iron Throne because the dead will kill them all. What do you think, Lady Tauriel, now that you're back here?
Sorry.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Well, he already knows that there's a great conflict going on in Jon. And he's also wanting to take the fight to them, not to wait. He wants to be proactive because he knows what's coming. You just sense that in him. He already knows a lot more than what he's saying.
Now, let me ask you before you go on, do you think I agree with you on that? Is he not saying it because once you say it, it's real, or or is it like he wants? Granted, the dead came alive and attacked them in his room, so he must know. And I think they had ideas about this before Benjen ever even left to go ranging. But how hard must it be to actually state the others are coming back?
Something struck me though. When Tauriel said it's been pulled in two directions.
Right.
Ice is coming from the north, fire from the south. He's being torn between ice and fire.
Ooh.
Right. I had never thought of that. What else do we got? Because there's so much on this one. I'm going to give you guys a chance to, talk about it, and then maybe I'll throw in if you guys don't bring up the stuff I was thinking about.
Well, to me, if he doesn't want to say what he already knows, Jon already has a good idea of what they may be facing. He's wondering in his mind why it's so important specifically that he goes, why he wants him there.
And I do like how he says the Starks, the blood knows, it remembers things that others have not, have forgotten because they are original first men.
Right.
And I think in his mind, he's hesitating. He knows he has to go. He doesn't know why he has to go, why it's so imperative that he wants him there with his wolf.
Yeah, I mean, think about the wolf, right? The wolf looks like. Go ahead, please.
Specifically, the wolf.
Right.
I mean, yes, he wants Jon, but it's the wolf that he seems imperative that you have to bring the wolf.
Because did you get, this goes out to any of you guys, did you guys get from that statement that Mormont realizes that Ghost has been sent or is in some type of connection with the others? Not the others, but with the trees, with the weirwoods, like the old gods. He has a connection.
Yeah, and foreshadowed a bit though by Ned Stark's word that the direwolves belong in the north.
That's true. That's true.
Personally, I think someone is using Ghost to manipulate circumstances.
Yeah, that could definitely be true.
Because this is the second time that Ghost has conveniently done something that alters the story. Last time was when Ghost showed up with the hand of the dead ranger. Right.
And then also Ghost was going nuts that warned Jon that they reanimated. So it's even more than that. It was Ghost, that reaction to what was going on, that got Jon going, I believe, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah.
And don't forget we've been told in this book that during the battle between the first men and the children, the first men believed that the children believed that their gods, they worship the trees in respect of their gods, but the children believed that the trees were the gods and held the singers. So yes, that kind of answers what you were saying.
And even though it's seemingly a good thing, when Ghost wakes up Jon and Jon saves the Lord Commander, right?
Right.
It could still be just circumstances being manipulated to get Jon into a position where someone wants him to be for later use. So I don't trust that stuff at all.
No, I get you.
I've always wondered the extent to which the wolves are being used, but also the extent to which they have certain autonomy and their own agenda. Like I sometimes think that they're more than just wolves. That's just the physical embodiment that they happen to have, but their connection to the old gods and their uniqueness and their ability to merge with humans. I always felt like that made them different in some way.
And with those children in particular, you know, let's not forget some of the wolves start taking on the characteristic of the kids, and the kids start taking care. So there's a bond there that even if someone is manipulating and talking to the animals, I believe there's also a side of the animals that truly they're there for those children to protect them and to be, you know, part of them.
Yeah. I'm kind of with Jayne where she's talking about the almost divine supernatural part of them that they may be manipulated. They just always seem to be there. They're just too destined.
Right. Well, again, Ghost is the perfect example, because we've had other ones that will, you know, started howling before dark messages, you know, dark wings, dark words showed up. Or if they, you know, something was happening with the kids, they knew beforehand to protect them. But with Ghost, you know, they wouldn't have found those bodies if it wasn't for Ghost. You know, John probably wouldn't have got up and checked on Lord Commander if it wasn't for Ghost. So there's a lot of other things. And then Ghost just disappeared. Well, that's the next book. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, though, if it wasn't for Ghost, those dead people wouldn't have gotten close to the Lord Commander either.
Exactly. And John would have never received Longclaw.
Yep.
And I think that's a big thing. That'll be a big deal, Longclaw. Then we also hear, well, before I talk about that, we also, you know, step back when John's actually going to leave. You know, Sam's there. And then in the show, we had like Sam, Pip, and Grin were the ones that went out after him. Sam doesn't even do that. There's a group of these guys in the book that go to bring him back. And tell him, you know, we're your brothers now. You've been talking to me. This is how I kind of paraphrase it. You know, John talked a really good game, got these guys all to start believing that they were brothers, and they had a higher purpose than just being sent there as a prison term. And now he's leaving them, you know, and they kind of show him the grace that he taught them. And that's what brought him back.
I think that's a good point, because they do. I think he allowed them to believe in themselves. He is their brother.
And believe in him.
Right.
Yes.
So they're forcing him to sort of choose between two families.
Right. And remind him. They did, you know, they had to remind him.
We're all your family too, yeah.
We are your brothers. And then they start to, you know, say the Night's Watch again, you know, their oath to John to remind him. That part is awesome.
And
that
he
part
started cursing.
Awesome. Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Because he knew that I mean, after you say those, I took a vow in front of the old gods. Like, how am I supposed to break this now? There are some cool things, like how he brought up on one of the pages, nor was he Aemon Targaryen, you know, like saying who he wasn't, you know, but yet that might come into play down the road, you know, who he could be.
I found it interesting that to me, Sam is the glue that binds all this together, if you noticed, because Sam works behind the scenes between John and the boys. And he
would you say this is right? No, I was going to ask you, would you say this is one of the first times we really see it, but it's definitely not the last time we see Sam working behind the scenes because he believes in John?
Yes. He sees something in John that the others have not seen yet. They know it and they can feel it. They don't know why they know it, but Sam sees it.
Right. And Sam also sees someone who treats him like a man, treats him like a friend, and he's never had that, and John knows what to say. I think what Sam sees, and I don't know if you guys agree, Sam sees a true leader. He's able to say the right things to the different people. He's able to motivate guys differently. And that's why Sam gets that group of guys to go out and get him, because that's the group that John helped. Go ahead.
But if you've noticed, Sam is a leader. He doesn't know it himself, but he's spurred on by John to become a leader in his own way behind the scenes.
Right. Not even realizing it, right? He doesn't even realize he's a leader. He just knows that he's trying to help someone he believes could be a leader.
Yes.
That's funny. Good way of putting it. I like that. I didn't think about that. Anything else? What else do we have? I do like how we get told about like names like Corin Halfhand and other people, doing stuff. Your direwolf is acting up.
All the pets are acting up.
I know. I hear cats. I hear dogs. I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
what else,
we're talking dire wolves, and yeah.
There we go.
Anything else you caught, Stig?
No.
No. Did you? I do like the description of Molestown though. How it's like half buried underground, made for the winter and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's a fitting name too.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're reminded of Benjen again.
Right.
Yes.
And this sets up. It's actually a little bit like the last Tyrion chapter we had, where it basically sets all the pieces. This is happening here and there, and these people are here and there. It's basically coming soon on the next season of Game of Thrones, right?
Right. And that's funny you say it that way, because I feel like Mormont, this is the first time we see him like truly getting ready to lead a party of, troops, warriors, but he has been planning for this moment the whole book, talking to Tyrion about, talking to his Lord Father and his nephew about we needing more men on the wall, sending Yoren down to, get more men. He knows something is coming. Finding out, we find out that, Mance Rayder is amassing a group of people. He felt and he knew stuff like this was about to start happening. And he's been slowly trying to get more troops up there the best he can. But, the idea, if, for people that don't know, back when the order was founded of the Knights of the Black Brotherhood, the Knights of the Watch, they were respected, second sons, Lord Fathers, like it was an honor to be there. And, Mormont's now working with the rapists and thieves and, 17th son that can't do anything, like he's working with the worst of the worst. And he's creating something. And to tell John, like, you're going to be my squire too. Can I depend on you having my back? I thought that was kind of cool. All right. Anybody have anything left with John? Anything about John or Ghost or,
I just thought it was cute at the end where Ghost gave him a look. Like he knew.
Right.
The entire time.
Like, this is it. This is it. I mean, and Ghost was trying to stop him too, in a way, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. All right. We are going to move on to the next one if no one has anything left. And that will be Catelyn. Go ahead, please.
It was just that we learned that people sneak off all the time. So
yes, that's
he was
true.
so scared for himself and the other boys. But at the end of the day, if they had made it back, it would have been fine.
Right. There's been a lot of midnight rides to Molestown and beyond. Right. That is a definite. Yeah, you see that the Lord Commander realizes he can't be as strict with these guys as he would like to probably be.
Right.
Like to have an army that is well trained and strict. He realizes this is what I've been given. I have to give people some space to make mistakes and this and that. And you're seeing a more of a leader in him than we have recently, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is Happy Dinosaur saying? Does anyone else think George R. R. Martin is secretly have the books all finished, but he wants to release them after he dies so his producers can say this book was White Walker written by Mr. Martin? Yeah, I don't think so. I do believe he's working on both. I do believe that. But he's always kind of working on the next book, but we'll see. All right. So who has Catelyn?
I do.
All right, guys. Most of you are here just to hear her read. So whenever you're ready, Jane.
I don't know why. Okay. So to Catelyn, it seems 1,000 years since she left Riverrun by boat with an infant Robb to head north to Winterfell for the first time. Now she's returning by boat across that same river with a son who wears plate and mail instead of swaddling clothes. With them in the boat is Theon Greyjoy, and in the boat following are Brynden Tully, Greatjon Umber, and Rickard Karstark. As they draw near, the men on the walls cheer them as the banners of House Tully fly from every rampart. But Catelyn cannot feel anything but sadness since she received news of her husband's death, and she wonders if her heart will ever lift again. After passing under the wall through the wide water gate, they are greeted on the water stair by Catelyn's brother Sir Edmure Tully and Lord Titus Blackwood. A worn-looking Edmure embraces Catelyn, expresses his condolences, and promises vengeance against the Lannisters. Catelyn only says that it will not bring Ned back, then states she has to see her father. She is escorted to her father's solar in the keep, which is three-sided like Riverrun itself. Along the way, Catelyn asks about her father, and, as expected, Edmure explains that he is dying. When Catelyn demands to know why she was not notified, Edmure explains that with the Seven Kingdoms so volatile, her father forbid it. If word had gotten out that he was ailing, the Lannisters might have attacked. Catelyn immediately blames herself, remembering it was she who sparked the war by arresting Tyrion Lannister. You don't say.
About time to think about that.
Yeah, now. The solar is also triangular with a balcony to the east from which the walls, battlements, and river fort can be seen. Lord Hoster's bed has been moved onto the balcony so he can sit in the sun and watch the rivers. He is shrunken, looking much older and frailer than Catelyn remembers. Lord Hoster calls her Little Cat and tells how he wanted to be awake when she arrived. He was afraid he would not wake again. He speaks weakly and is racked by spasms of pain. He defends his decision to keep news of his illness a secret, but admits that he was afraid he would die before seeing her again, especially once the siege began. She tells him that Robb is here. They have Jaime Lannister in irons, and Riverrun is free again. This leads Lord Hoster to tell her of the joy he had as he watched the battle from the battlements. Her father asks if it was Robb who won the battle, and Catelyn tells him that it was. Then she mentions that Sir Brynden was also an important figure. Lord Hoster seems surprised by the mention of the Blackfish and asks if Lysa has come down from the Vale as well. Catelyn cannot lie and explains that Lysa is frightened and believes she and her son are only safe in the Eyrie. Hoster is very disappointed that he will not see her. Lord Hoster agrees to see Robb, who he remembers has his Tully eyes. When Catelyn presses on to ask if he will see his brother, her father asks if Sir Brynden has married anyone yet. Catelyn is saddened that her father cannot allow the old feud to rest. She tells him that his brother has not wed, nor will he ever. Lord Hoster launches into a weak rant, criticizing Brendan's choice to defy him and never marry, saying that Bethany Redwine is still waiting for Brynden. Catelyn has to remind her father that Bethany Redwine has long ago married Lord Mathis Rowan and has 3 children. Her father states that there were also offers from others, including Lord Jonas Bracken's daughter or any of 3 by Walder Frey. Catelyn tells how she would not have made it to Riverrun without Brendan, and her father agrees that he was always a warrior. Lord Hoster agrees to see his brother later, but he is too tired to fight now. Hoster is asleep before Catelyn leaves the Solar.
Okay.
Brendan,
Sorry. No, keep going.
It's a lot.
Keep going.
Brendan is talking with the Riverrun guards when Catelyn returns, but he anxiously asks about his brother, and Catelyn confirms that he is dying. When Brendan asks if Hoster will see him, Catelyn conveys that he will, but he's too tired to fight. So Brendan only laughs that his brother will be chiding him about the red wine girl as they light his funeral pyre. Catelyn smiles and asks where she can find Robb. In the halls, Catelyn finds Theon regaling the garrison, an account of the battle and how Greywind tore off a man's arm and drove the Lannister horses mad. When asked, Theon tells her that he believes Robb went to the Godswood. She realizes that this is just what Eddard would do after a battle. Catelyn finds Robb praying with those of his lord's bannermen who hold to the old gods, including the Great John, Rickard Karstark, Mage Mormont, Galbert Glover, and Lord Titus Blackwood, one of a very few followers of the old gods south of the Neck. She feels she should not disturb their prayers. As she walks through the Godswood, memories of her childhood beset Catelyn. Here her father taught her to ride. There, Edmure fell and broke his arm, and under the bower, she and Lysa played at kissing with Peter Baelish, and he tried to tongue them with mint from the Godswood on its breath. As Robb
he did.
As Robb rises from his prayers, Catelyn wonders if Robb, who was ridden into battle and killed men with a sword, has ever been kissed in the Godswood. When he sees her, Robb declares that they must call a council. Catelyn tries to get him to see his very sick grandfather, but Robb insists that first they must meet to discuss the news that Renly Baratheon has proclaimed himself king. Catelyn says she had expected it to be Lord Stannis, and Galbert Glover says they all did. The meeting is held in the Great Hall at 4 long tables. Lord Hoster is too weak to attend, but the attendance includes Edmure and the Blackfish, with the Tully bannermen arrayed around them. Lord Jonas Bracken, Lord Titus Blackwood, Lord Jason Mallister, Sir Mark Piper, Sir Stephen Frey, Carl Vance, a lord now, following his father's death, and Lord Lyman Derry, son of Sir Raymond Derry. The smaller number of Northmen lords sit opposite: Robb, Theon, Rickard Karstark, grief-stricken over the death of his 2 sons, Mage Mormont, Galbert Glover, and Great John Umber. The lords argue late into the night, with every lord taking full advantage of his right to speak. Roose Bolton has reformed their other hosts at the mouth of the causeway. Lord Tywin Lannister has crossed the Triton and is making for Harrenhal. Some lords favor marching east to meet Lord Tywin at Harrenhal. Mark Piper favors marching west to Casterly Rock. Jason Mallister suggests they simply stay athwart Lord Tywin's supply lines and rest their troops. Jonas Bracken proposes they pledge fealty to Renly and move south to join him. Robb, speaking for the first time, insists that Renly is not the king. The Lord protests that Robb cannot mean to hold to Joffrey, who executed his father. Robb insists that makes Joffrey evil, but does not make Renly king. As the youngest brother, Renly cannot be king before Stannis. That splits the room again, with some favoring Stannis, some still favoring Renly, who is crowned and has Highgarden and Storm's End to support him. Robb states he does not know what to do since Joffrey is the true heir, but he executed his father based on a lie. Sir Stephen Frey, a Walder Frey's heir, suggests that they make peace and allow Renly and Joffrey to fight and oppose or submit to the winner as they choose. Lord Tywin would welcome the truce and the return of his son. This is met with shouts of outrage. Catelyn suggests a peace. Robb reminds her that the Lannisters murdered her husband and that he will have no peace with them, laying his sword on the table to emphasize his point. Catelyn points out that the war was started to free Eddard and to protect the Riverlands. The Riverlands are now safe, and no amount of vengeance will bring her husband back. She wants her daughter safe, for Robb to be safe and ruling from Winterfell, and to go home. Sir Brennan questions what the terms of peace could be that would prevent another war in the near future. Richard Karstark and Jonas Bracken question what their sacrifices have been worth if peace is made now. Titus Blackwood notes that if they make peace with King Joffrey, they are not traitors. Are they not traitors to King Renly? Caitlyn's hopes of peace shattered before her eyes. The meeting breaks down into another argument of which king to support until the Great John rises to his feet and silences them all. He spits upon all the kings and declares that Renly and Stannis are nothing to him. He asks why they should rule over him and his from some flowery seat in the south when they know nothing about the north. Even their gods are wrong. The Great John asks why they should not rule themselves again. It was the dragons they submitted to, and the dragons are all dead. Then the immense man points his two-handed greatsword at Robb and proclaims, "There sits the only king I mean to bend my knee to, my lords, the king in the north." The other bannermen all take up the call, even the Riverlords who have never been ruled from Winterfell. And for the first time in 300 years, there is a king in the north.
Hoo. Good stuff. Real quick, thank you, Culture. Yes, that's a great chapter. Thank you, Culture Casino, with the Dumacock. I appreciate, or Dumacorn, not Dumacock, Dumacorn, excuse me, sticker. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. You are also a great channel member and always making stuff for me. So I really appreciate it. Guys, check out his channel, which is growing and doing awesome. And I also saw Bone jumped in here. So, hey, Bone, how's it going, brother? Jayne, why don't you start us off? What are you thinking?
I just love how they're debating sort of the politics of the South and come to this realization, thanks to Great John, that none of those people care about them, nor should they be ruled by them. They're the North. They've always been independent. And he tells them, look, the only thing they had over us was the dragons. That's it. There's absolutely no reason the North shouldn't be independent and just forget all their kings. And I love it. I love this scene so much.
It actually reminds me of Brexit.
I
Old
love that.
Britannia.
I do.
Also,
go ahead.
If Sir Lyman Derry becomes king in the end, his queen will be the Derry Queen.
Yes, you will. I do like how, they bring up, like, look, we bent the knee to the dragons. The dragons are gone. Robert was, friends with our Lord, Paramount in the North, Ned. But now that he's gone and there's all this chaos and they killed Ned, why should they rule us? And I thought that's great too. But we still have people, they don't know the whole truth. So they, Robb is still trying to make sense of it. Like, look, first of all, Joffrey is still the king, even though he's a piece of garbage. And Renly's the younger brother. No matter what, it would be Stannis over Renly. So he's doing what his father would do and break it down. But they just trump that and say, no, we're going to make it king.
Yeah.
Which usually isn't a good idea in the end, though, because you're making too many factions, right?
Right, you're putting a target on yourself too. Yep. But yes. What were you going to say, Teresa?
Oh no, I was just going to say it was pretty dramatic, like the whole speech, and then they all just start laying their swords before Robb. It was very, very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm. I love that scene.
Yeah, as James said, and yeah, we learned it's probably going to cause some trouble because now we've got another king, but it does point out, as you've all said, that the Northern, or they're their own people. They're like Texas,
Yeah. That's true. I mean, the North is as big as the rest of Westeros, and really, no one in the South ever comes up there. They
No.
rule, but they, rarely have they come up there.
It would be so
Queen
difficult
Alysain
for them.
came and stuff. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, but we go back now and we think about just getting there and Halster Tully waiting for his daughter, listening to war but can't be part of it. Doing what she used to do. She used to wait for her father to come back, and now he was waiting out there for them to come to River Run, which was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was cool that he was sitting on the balcony watching the battle.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was a great commander. He was involved in the Nine Penny Kings and the first Robert's Rebellion. Like, he's been involved in many. He was but very good commander. And you wonder how the story would go if he was healthy. But what I find kind of interesting too is, and I didn't think about it until this reread, when they discuss his symptoms of what's going on with him. It sounds like stomach cancer, but George uses the terminology they would understand. The pinching. The pinching feeling from the crabs and this and that. Like, it's interesting. Like, I got to keep an eye on that and see what else George, like a sickness or anything like that, where he'll use terms they understand, but he's actually trying to explain something we know.
Interesting point. Yeah, I didn't catch that, but yeah, that makes sense. And also, Jayne kind of commented on it as well in the thing that finally Catelyn figures out she effed up.
Yeah.
It's like, high time, lady. Too late now.
Fault.
It's all her fault. All her fault. Lady Tauriel, what do you have?
Well, continuing on with the Catelyn, is she came to realize that, but she hasn't realized that she also contributed to the death of her husband.
True. I mean, he had to cover for her, right?
Right.
And she hasn't come to that realization. She knows what she did was wrong. In hindsight, great.
Right.
But she's also having the fear of watching her son become a man before her eyes, and she does not want to let go.
Right. And not even knowing if he is a man yet, like even kissed a girl. So, yeah.
And the mother instinct kicks in where she sees him as a little boy still, not as the leader of the House of Stark.
That's definitely true.
And in one way, I see the parallel with Cersei and her, because they both have that issue. They're both very strong in their own ways, and she's still wanting to take the lead, and he's bucking against that. She sees him coming into his own, and she doesn't quite know how to handle that.
Right. Same with Cersei. Two different boys acting completely different, but now will both be kings. And I got to give, Catelyn does try to not speak to her son, but, like down to him or when she thinks their ideas are wrong, but gives him, advice or counsel, which is smart. I do like how they, Theon was telling the guys about Grey Wind, freaking out the horses and ripping off a man's arm and, robbing him, fighting almost as one, like they were, as one. I thought that was great because, what do the wolves have to offer in a battle? Well, right there, the horses will not act the way they're supposed to. They'll kick, they'll rear, they'll run. So that's huge because they're not used to an animal like that being around them.
As big as they are.
Also, he's trained his wolf to disarm his opponents.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jayne, we also got some flashbacks, setting up what happened prior to Robert's rebellion. A little more with Peter.
Yeah. Ugh.
So all
I
you have
tried to
to
wipe
do
that out of my memory as soon as I read it.
if you put mint in your mouth, you get to kiss girls and stuff.
I guess so.
Apparently.
Cool. Noted.
Apparently, I got to work on that. One thing I found cool is the last handful of chapters, except for the Dany ones, bring up Peter Baelish, but we have not seen him since prior to Ned's beheading.
True.
That Baelish.
Peter Baelish.
That Baelish. And then, you get the little thing about the blackfish, and it makes you either wonder, is the blackfish, living a closeted life, or was there something different? Is it that the women mostly were siding with Robert in Robert's rebellion, and the blackfish is more of a Targaryen supporter? And that's why he never accepted any of those women, because their families sided with Robert?
Oh.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, he's named after a Targaryen.
Would he care though? Because typically marriages were across political lines on purpose.
Right, but he fought for his brother in the rebellion, but he never agreed with it from what I could read of him.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And that was his one way of bucking back. Like, I won't marry a traitor's, and in his mind, probably a traitor's daughter. Or it could also be that he is, gay, because she says she'll never see him be married. So is he living a closeted life?
But even that wouldn't make any sense, because all of these guys cheated anyway. You get married, you have your heir. That's the whole point.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't want an heir.
Could be. I truly believe it's more of the he did not want to marry somebody who was not a Targaryen supporter. So, and his brother,
or he just didn't want a wife bothering him.
Right. Well, that's true.
It could be.
He could be asexual.
He's a never Trumper.
That's funny.
Oh man, does anybody have anything else on this chapter?
I thought it was interesting that Kat basically pleaded. I mean, essentially, she was pleading with her son to make peace so that all of her kids could be safe, and he just told her, "Look, that's too far gone. The horses are already out of the barn on that one. This is it.
Yeah.
We are in a war, and we're going to see it to the end."
Yeah, that true. I mean, again, she's realizing that she can't tell him what to do, and soon enough, with all these men proclaiming him king, she really will lose that power. So does she push, or does she stay in his good graces for now, giving him the advice she thinks he'll need to survive?
I think they laid it out on the table. He knows how she feels now, and she knows that it's not going to change his opinion.
Yep. Very interesting. All right, we got
heartbreaking for her, though.
Yes. Think about that.
And also, George does the same thing in this chapter, as he's done with the other final chapters for each character. He info dumps where all the pieces are.
Right. To set us up for knowing where they are for the next book. That's the way I feel.
Cool.
And I also think this was pre-George realizing that this wasn't going to be a trilogy either.
Yeah, he was planning to skip a few years after book 1.
Right. It was going to be a 5-year jump.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's probably why we're seeing these info dumps, because I don't think he does that in the later books.
Right. No, the 5-year jump was either going to be, I think it was supposed to be after book 2. It was at least book 2, because there's a young Dane we have not met yet, and he was part of that 5-year jump. So it would be the next book, I believe, but I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's the next book, and then a 5-year jump, and then he was going to finish it. And now we're on, supposed to be 7 books. We're waiting for book 6. But
so it's Jayne Theory.
Jayne Theory.
I'm not gonna lie, I was pleased with that one. Very pleased.
That's funny.
All right, this synopsis is very long, so let me get to it. And this is the Danny last chapter.
Would you say it would be dragging on for a while?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. It definitely is dragging on. This is Danny 10.
Oh, my God.
And this is the last chapter in the book. So let it begin. Danny and her Cass build a funeral pyre for Khal Drogo, as is Dothraki custom. There is little wood in the land, so much of what they find is gnarled. They lay the logs in a square and fill the center with brush, grass, and bark shavings. aGoT and Rakharo kill a stallion from their now meager herd so that Drago might have a mount in the afterlife. It is nowhere near as fine as Drago's red, but there are few in the world that are. Mirror Mazdur believes that Danny is attempting to use blood magic to resurrect her Khal and insists that without the proper spells, the blood is nothing. The mage even goes so far as to offer assistance in exchange for being released from her bonds, but Danny orders her silenced. On the platform, they pile Drago's treasure, but Danny does not let the weapons she received as bride gift be added, insisting they are hers. Ser Jorah is wary of her intentions and pleads with her to let Drago go and come with him to see the wonders of the East. Danny assures him that she does not plan to sacrifice herself on her husband's pyre. When Ser Jorah calls her princess, Danny insists that he call her queen. Her brother, the king, is dead, and everything that was his is now hers. Once the pyre is completed, Danny gathers her people together, now fewer than 100, and declares that they will be her Khalasar. Among the crowd, she sees slaves and declares them free. She announces that among them are free to go, but that if they stay, they shall always have an honored place among her Khalasar. Danny turns to the 3 young warriors of her Kahas and gives each of them one of her bride's gifts, naming them Ko and asking for their oaths as her blood riders. To Jago, she gives the silver-handed whip, to aGoT the double-curved black dragon bone bow, and to Rakharo the gold chase araka. However, now none of them are willing to take the oath. Jago replies that this is not done and it would shame him to be a woman's blood rider. aGoT states that only a man can lead a Khalasar and name a Ko. And Rakharo only promises to take her to Vastarthrak to join the Dash Khalid. Jeez. Danny ignores the refusal. Finally, Danny turns to Ser Jorah and promises him a fine Valyrian steel blade when she comes into her birthright. Ser Jorah swears his fealty and his heart to her, and Danny proclaims him the first of her Queen's Guard. Danny returns to her tent, knowing the Dothraki think her mad and not sure that they are wrong. After a pleasingly steamy hot bath, she is dried and perfumed. Danny sends her maids away so that she might prepare Drago for his funeral journey. She thinks about how few Dothraki men die with their hair uncut as she washed him, braids his hair with bells, and dresses him in fine clothes worn fast he likes most. She finally asks him to forgive her and declares that she paid the price, but it was too high. She then dresses in fine clothes with a vest like Drago's. The sun is setting when she calls them back to bear Drago to the pyre. Danny orders oil poured over the pyre and then orders her handmaids to fetch her dragon eggs. Something in her voice makes them run. Sir Jorah protests that Drago will have no need of dragon's eggs, urging Dany to sell them and live as a wealthy woman for the rest of her days. Dany insists that the eggs were not given to her to sell. Dany climbs the pyre to place the black egg under Drago's arm, near his heart, the green beside his head, and the cream and gold between his legs. Once the eggs are in place, Dany gives her love one last kiss, climbs down. Dany notices Mary Maz-Dur watching her and hears the mage call her mad. Dany only asks how far madness is from wisdom and commands that Mary Maz-Dur be bound to the funeral pyre by Rakaro and Sir Jorah, who hesitates and protests. The woman does not scream or plead as she is bound. As she pours the oil over the mage's head, Dany thanks her for all she has taught her. Mary Maz-Dur promises that Dany will not hear her scream. Dany insists that she will, but that she only wants the mage's life. Echoing the woman's own words, only death can pay for life. This brings a flicker of what might be fear to Mage's face for the first time. They wait for night to fall. It is Jago that first notices the red comet, the first star of the evening. Dany seems this is as a sign to light the pyre. Mary Maz-Dur sings in a high voice at first, but her voice becomes a wail as the flames engulf her and she soon falls silent. Dothraki and Sir Jorah back away as the smoke grows thicker and the heat stronger, but Dany stands her ground. She is the blood of the dragon and undeterred by the fire. She knew the truth long ago, but the brazier was not hot enough. Then Dany begins to slowly walk towards the fire as sweat covers her body. She sees many images as she walks, trees, animals, and a great gray stallion. Seeing the horse, she tells Drago to mount, and for a second, she sees him mounted. He smiles at her and cracks a whip made of flame down upon the pyre, and Dany hears the crack of breaking stone as the pyre collapses, showering her with ash, cinder, broken eggshells. Behind her, she can hear the Dothraki and Sir Jorah shouting. As the pyre begins to collapse completely, Dany hears two more cracks like the first and walks into the heart of the fire. When the fire dies, Sir Jorah finds Dany naked but alive and unburnt except for her hair, nursing two baby dragons with a third draped over her shoulder. The dragons match the color of their eggs, cream and gold, green and bronze, black and scarlet. Sir Jorah drops to his knees wordlessly. He is followed by Jago, Ago, and Rakaro, who declare her blood of their blood, and then her handmaids and the rest of the Dothraki do the same. Dany knows they are now hers as they never were Drago's. Dany rises, and for the first time in 100 years, the night came alive with the music of dragons. We are there. Woo! Who would like to start? Jayne. Jump. Oh, no. Smart. All right.
Well, no, I was just saying, I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, how do you say it? I can't unthink of something that Stig has said now about what happened to Dany when she walked into the flames. I don't know if we want to go into that.
What?
Well, it's not a spoiler now. Right. It's a theory, and this is a theory I firmly believe in because it's my own theory, isn't it? Because I came up with it.
I've never heard anybody else say it.
Yeah, I think Daenerys died on the pyre, and she was raised by the Lord of Light. So that's what I believe, because she is different afterwards. Spoiler, but yes. When she approaches the pyre, she's sweating, which means the heat is affecting her, right? And that's just when she's near it. And if she's in it, she's lost her hair and all that. And George Martin said that her fire resistance, as it were, was a one-time thing, and this was it. He specified that, and he said Targaryens are not immune to fire. But Daenerys,
we have a history showing us that.
Yeah, the Targaryens burn all the time. Even Daenerys' brother dies from heat, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But and George said that Daenerys' fire resistance was a one-time thing, and that scene was it.
Right.
So that means she isn't immune, right?
Right. We see her get.
And the only one I know of that can tamper with fire is the Lord of Light. And I think she died, and Miriam Azdur died, and that's her death paid for Danny's life, which raised Danny. Because I think the dragons were just raised because of the heat.
Well, I was thinking because of the heat, and also because of the cosmic red comet flying over, a celestial, moment in time. I think that had something to do with their
Kind of
birth.
like actually, there's also a couple of biblical things. Daenerys washes herself before she does that whole scenario,
Right.
And in the Bible, that has a lot to do with resurrection, doesn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, though. But
no, I don't think you are wrong. It definitely has something to do with washing away the old you, the sins of you, and being reborn.
Yeah,
you're being born again.
Also, the fallen, the comet is often referred to as a fallen star, right?
Right.
And which is what they describe Lucifer as.
Yes.
And Lucifer, fire, raising the dead, Lightbringer.
Yep, Lightbringer, definitely.
Well,
So I think
power.
Daenerys is not the Daenerys. Well, in the later books, we're not seeing the Daenerys we saw in book 1. It's so-called Fire White.
Right, she definitely changes.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Teresa?
Oh, I was going to say, and perhaps the same resurrection, quote unquote, magic that happened is what resurrected the dragons. Like they were all resurrected together.
Right. And well, maybe not resurrected, but because the time prophet says no in the Bible, Jesus washed the disciples' feet. But what I'm talking about more is not the washing of feet, but the washing
itself.
It's more of a baptizing where you are dunked under the water, you come up, and you are now, you're new, born in the eyes of God.
Born again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, side note, dragons in Westeros used to hatch their eggs by blowing fire at them.
Yes. Yep. And that's why it was weird with the Targaryen children, because they would sleep with the egg, and sometimes that would cause it. And you're right. Most Targaryens are heat resistant, but they are not fireproof. But going back to the washing thing, Dany went in the pyre clean of whatever, was before that, died, and she was resurrected in a new life. But the eggs were not. They were born.
Yeah, they were just hatched from the heat.
Yeah, they were just hatched.
Oh,
okay. So her rebirth in that fire. Yeah. So my idea.
I'm fully sticking to that theory.
Yeah.
But now I wonder if they were hatching before she went in, because she heard something breaking.
It cracked. Right.
The cracking of the eggs?
Well, she heard 3 different cracks.
Right.
Yep.
The first one cracked, and then the pyre fell, and she was already walking into it, and then the other 2 cracked.
So she could have jumped back out and would have still had them, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. That's why
you lost all your hair for nothing.
But no, that's a valid point.
Actually, excellent point, because that proves the dragons being hatched had nothing to do with Daenerys, because she had just entered.
Right. They were just born. Her walking into the fire and surviving, or being reborn as a fire white, that was the magical moment.
And that's probably why Miriam Azdur, who seemed not to be afraid to die, pointed out that Daenerys was mad.
Right.
And it was probably a good reason for that, because Daenerys is doing something she doesn't know anything about, but Miriam Azdur maybe recognizes what's about to happen.
Yep.
Or rather, what's really about to happen.
Right, exactly. And the comment, I mean, we'll get it from old Nan. You know, she talked about comments and stuff like that too. So that's later on though, I believe. So yeah, I mean, Danny's the first to see the comet. The comet is in this world a harbinger of something magical, either proclaiming something, blessing something, or heralding something. You know what I mean? So Danny's the first to see it, and then this happened. And it's a red comet. R'hllor is red. I agree with you, man.
And the comet I always thought was awesome in the books because everyone has a different explanation for it. You know,
right?
It's always heralding something, and that's pretty much what it was when you know, back in the day.
Yeah.
And in our world, when people saw something, it always meant
like
something.
Halley's Comet. Yeah, exactly. But to each culture, it was different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a comet is also a star, right? Shooting star.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
kind of. But if someone follows the star to get to someone, that's also kind of biblical. Which
they might have thought of it as a star back then.
Yeah, spoiler though. Something like it kind of happens.
Right. What were you going to say, Teresa? I mean, not Teresa. I'm sorry, Lady Tauriel.
I'm wondering that when you see Mary Mazdu, she said her eyes widened. She kind of looked shocked. I'm wondering if what happened to Danny in the tent is the result of what Danny becomes.
Oh, okay. So by walking into the pyre, she's releasing whatever was in the tent that happened to her.
Yes.
Like almost like finishing that what began in the tent. Oh, wow.
Ritual.
That is it. Yeah, ritual. Yeah, exactly. Wow. Okay, that was good. Now, do you guys think the placement of the eggs meant anything? So next to Drago's, heart and strength in his arms, that's where Drago was, or Drogon will be. One of them was placed near his head, maybe having his, his brain or his, the way he was. And then the other one was put between his legs, meaning the virile and strong. Like, I wonder if we'll see that down the road, because I've never actually thought about that until she put them in certain spots on Drago.
Maybe it foreshadows a bit who will ride them.
Mm-hmm.
The thinker.
Maybe someone virile.
Yes.
Ride, the one.
No, I like that.
Placed at the crotch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Intelligence.
Yeah. It pissed me off in the show they didn't burn her hair. Because what I think is if something magical did happen, Stig, she would have died before she would have completely burned up from the heat of the air, burning her lungs out. So yes, R'hllor probably got her right as she was dying, but it wouldn't have saved her hair from burning. I don't know. I was thinking about that one time when we were talking about it. I meant to bring it up. It might not mean anything.
I just thought it was interesting that she turned the blood magic against her. You made my baby the sacrifice, now you're going to be the sacrifice.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Time Prophet did a pun. 7 out of 10, sir. Well done.
Very good. Hold on. There it is. Very good pun, sir. Make sure you guys check out the Time Prophet too. He has a great channel. It was a very exciting chapter. Dun, 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 dun. I love that the 3 blood riders. Oh, go ahead first. What were you going to say, Lady Tauriel?
Go ahead. I just lost it there.
Oh, sorry about that. What
Also,
I thought. Yep, go ahead, Stig.
Side note: 3 blood riders, 3 eggs. I'm a firm believer in the Norse mythologies thing, and
Mm-hmm.
for Game of Thrones, and 3 is the magic number in Norse mythology.
Oh shoot!
Yeah.
That definitely has something there. What I also thought was cool is that, we know Jorah is falling for her, but he does not, before she even walks into that pyre or does anything, I am supporting you completely. I am yours. But the other 3, no, everybody else was like, yeah, no, we're good. Woman can't do this. Woman couldn't do that. I'm just going to be respectful and bring you back to Doth Calreese or whatever the hell the mother of the mountain. God, there was some hard words in that one. And then after that, they all realize, holy crap, she's something special, but
Yeah.
Jorah is the only one that did not turn on her. Like right off the rip, I devout myself to you. I am devoted,
Well, I don't even think that they were turning on her so much as they just that wasn't her place really, and they just wanted to keep her safe, but they weren't going to allow her to rule them. But then they saw something they had never seen before.
Right.
And how powerful she was and the dragons, and they're like, okay, cool. You are clearly the most powerful person we've ever seen.
I am
all good. All good. We'll do it.
I'm completely shell shocked by Time Prophet's stream of puns.
I'm liking it too. And then you got Adam Price also jumping in. Don't egg him on. You're right. You're right, Adam.
Silly.
Exit stage left, sir.
Teresa, were you going to say something? Or Lady Tauriel? Okay.
I'm wondering if Mary Mazgul, being of the cult that, how would I put this? Not for spoilers. Might have something to do later on in the books.
Wait a minute, the beginning again.
Yeah. With what Dany did.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
She set it in motion. And not in the way that things may proceed or should have proceeded, shall we say.
Okay. By her doing that, she changed the course of it.
Yes.
Okay. I like that.
And see, that's
the way I see it, go ahead, Jayne.
No, I was just going to say, that's the thing, we were talking about before, the extent to which Mary had a role in sort of causing things to happen. And I've always questioned how much she knew. Like, I feel like she had her own motivations.
Yeah.
Even though she may have been set on this path. And based on her reaction when she was having the oil poured on her head, she didn't see this happening. So I don't know exactly what she intended or how she expected this to go. But when she was sitting up there on that pyre, that was not at all what she had in mind happening.
But she knew she was going to be sacrificed.
I don't think she did.
Yeah,
Initially.
I'm thinking she thought her job was done. She was fine with dying, and then, shit, I've been duped.
Right, that's what I thought. That's how I see it. Like I did what I had to do. The eggs will be born. Oh my God, she's about to step in this thing. What's going on? I don't know what's going on. That's kind of what I thought.
Well, that was the clue when Dany said, a life for a life.
Right.
And it clicked that she went, oh no, this is not the way this is supposed to be.
Right. Interesting stuff. Let me quickly say thank you to the Gilkman for $4.99. Hail to an incredible host. Oh, thanks, buddy. An incredible panel. Subscribe to Ord's Board, definitely. Great fella. Just got back from visiting him and Amber, the queen. Love them. And I just want to say, Thomas, I was keeping an eye on you guys all weekend, and I love the tweets you guys were putting out, the pictures. Ords and Amber are freaking amazing. They're two of my favorite people on YouTube, and you are too, buddy. So I am glad you had a great time and really got to connect with people that you care about.
They look like they were having a great time.
They look like they had an awesome time.
Those are awesome
That was
pictures.
so good. Yeah. Sorry if I, took anybody off track with that. Okay.
Well, she told her she wasn't going to hear her scream or something, and Danny was like, "Yes, you will."
Yep.
Mhm.
That was so funny.
I love
Well,
it
you're
the
gonna
way Danny
scream.
did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see
She,
her changing here too.
well, that's the thing. She walks in with that anger.
Yeah.
And if Stig's theory is right, she gets trapped with that idea that you screwed me over. Now I'm going to, bring justice.
If you think about it, she was not afraid when Daenerys poured oil on her at all, right? And she was obviously going to burn her. She was not afraid of that. She panicked when Daenerys went into the fire with her and said, "Only death may pay for life."
Right.
That's when she panicked.
Right. Because she even says, like, let me help you if you're going to try to bring back, your love. You don't know the right words. So she thought that's what Danny was planning.
So so if that's what's happening, what is she afraid of that's happening to the person who sacrificed it? Like, what is happening to them when their lives are traded for another? Do they go into a place?
I'm thinking their soul gets devoured or something.
Well, that's why I wondered with what happened to Danny in the tent, if something came into Danny that didn't come out until she went into the fire, and then it was unleashed through her. Like you said, she became totally different, and Mary Masdul knew this. Yeah. And that's why she became afraid.
Do you think she released it back into Mary?
No, I think either whatever.
Scott, where are you?
Yeah,
you're in the bathroom, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, I was at my kitchen. I was looking in the fridge. Sorry. What
you won't
I
find any dragon eggs in there. I'm sorry.
God, I wish I had a dragon egg. What I'm thinking is this: Mary knew she was going to attempt to bring back. She thought that's what it was going to be, an attempt to bring back, Drago. But when she realized that this is not what she's doing, I think you may have a point, Lady Tauriel, that she may have something from R'hllor may have entered her, because don't forget, R'hllor is not just the god of fire. He's also, what does fire create? Shadows. So maybe something with those shadows, entered her as she was losing her child. It was entering her, and she had crazy dreams and visions, and told she was not the last dragon, saw herself turn into a dragon in her dreams, saw herself as Rhaegar. So yeah, I could see that.
I think you nailed it, Sporking.
Yeah.
And I think maybe everyone on the panel might agree with me on this, because from what we know, and this is a little spoiler for later books, life force creates shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Miri Masdur, her whole life force gets spent. She becomes a shadow.
Yes. So that makes you wonder what happened to those people that were the shadows in the tent. Like, who were they before they were shadows? You know what I mean? Like, is that her? Is that going to be what happens to Mary? She will live now as just a shadow.
Maybe.
Oh my God, being used. Yeah, go ahead.
for all eternity, right? It's like being trapped in a in-between state. Yeah, so that's because I was trying to think why she would panic. Like, okay, so I'm going to die, no big deal. But then she panicked when she started doing that. So she was going to
use her life force.
like a soul of the damned or something, kind of a thing.
And she was screaming, and if she is from that, religion that Tauriel mentioned, they're not afraid of fire at all.
No, it's pleasurable.
Yeah, so she was screaming with panic.
Yep. I think she realized at that moment she got set up. Like they might have known. They gave her just enough what she needed to set Dany on the right path. And then I heard you, Jayne. The shadows. There was a wolf, right? And there was also a man on fire shadow. So
I was just wondering, could those have been the former spirits of people who had gotten sacrificed? People maybe we had heard of before who had gone off somewhere and never came back.
The Mad King burned a wolf when he killed a Stark.
I know who you're talking about, though, Jayne. That's interesting.
Wow.
I don't know. That's some stuff to think about. Again, George writing it so it seems like the sacrifice and the comet were the reason the eggs fractured. I believe the comet was what brought the eggs and the belief that Dany had in him. But the Mary Mazdul thing had more to do with raising Dany back.
Yeah, I think the eggs just cracked because of the heat. It was
others have tried that, but others have tried it before. Look at Summerhall burnt down, and we believe eggs were involved in that. But with the comet going overhead, comets have power. Celestial objects have power. So that's interesting, man.
But we had the theory about the, well, never mind. I guess that goes out of the
window. Here's people on our planet gets affected by the moon because the moon affects the water, and we're 80% water?
Yeah.
Or something. And nutcases tend to be nuttier when there's a full moon.
Yeah.
True.
True.
Hence the term lunacy, right? So maybe the comets or other celestial events might have helped with starting madness in people. It would be interesting to see if there were any celestial events during the Mad King's reign. I'm probably reaching with this, but
no, that's interesting.
George does tend to get a bit scientific with his magic as well.
Very much.
So
and also in history with comets, they can either be a sign of something is about to happen, but in a lot of the primitive cultures, they took it as a warning, as a sign of something bad that was going to happen. So it works either way depending on your perspective and your knowledge.
Right. And again, don't forget who she trained with and what that person does at the end of the last book you read before 6 comes out. That's huge. And we need to think about this one a little bit more and gather evidence. I think you got something good going here, Stig. I think
I want to walk through it, like build a fire in the backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened there?
And you're not going to have any hair, Jayne, by the time it's over.
I would have to use a doll. I'll throw the doll in the fire.
There you go. Sacrifice the doll. Wait till there's like, I don't know, a meteor storm, and then go for it.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So anybody have any last words on these chapters, or just going through this, all together, the book series, the first book. Does anybody have something they'd like to say?
Well, for me, since I've seen the show and now I'm after reading the book for the first time, I'm having this really weird shift where I'm unlearning what I have learned, to quote Yoda, and seeing these events with Dani in completely different eyes that back a little more to the magic of what she is and what this actually might truly mean, because what they did on the TV show was just something that they pulled out of their rear ends at the end. So
right,
that Dani is not really on a human destination, that she's truly in the realm of the supernatural at this point.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree that she's definitely become supernatural.
Yeah.
And they downplayed that in the show even before they got rid of the material.
Am I allowed to do like a slight spoiler? It's not a story spoiler at all.
That's fine. Heads up, everybody. Slight spoiler.
Yeah.
Go for
it. It's just that in later books, she hardly ever eats or sleeps. She's always awake on the balcony or whatever at night, and she doesn't seem to need as much food and water as everyone else. And,
doesn't seem to get as much joy.
Yeah, it mirrors a character
Another
that
person.
shows up in the next book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget the person that gets some of his life force taken starts acting that way too. Just doesn't look as radiant. You know what I mean? Like, no more eating, barely sleeping.
What are you getting at?
Yeah.
The true nature of the Viking.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been awesome, guys. I got to close it down because I got to get to bed because I have to be up at 1:30 a.m. and it's 9 p.m. here. So thank you guys so much. Let's go through. Anybody have any last words on just doing this, and tell them where they can find you? Jayne, we'll start with you.
Cool. You can find me here on YouTube, where I post weekly movie and television reviews every Sunday at 6 Central, as well as some occasional pop culture news and commentary. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jayne Theory.
Thank you, Jayne. Yeah, guys, please make sure everybody checks out everybody's channel up here. Lady Tauriel.
I have a little channel. I haven't done any videos lately because I went back to work, so I have to get my schedule redone here so I can make some content. I love being on the panel. Thank you guys for having me. I enjoy it when StreamYards lets me come in, let's put it that way. And it's been, I just love everybody in the chat and all the theories that we've got going and to bounce them off of everybody.
Oh, thank you. And I got to say, I enjoy it too, because this theories have been going on as long as the books have come out. And I feel like we're on to different ones that I've never really heard people talk about. So that's awesome. You're always welcome back on this panel anytime. So thank you. Right. And Miss Martin Muses.
Well, you can find me on Twitter, Teresa _Martin, and also on my YouTube channel, Miss Martin Muses. Currently, I'm doing some talking about Once Upon a Time, but I talk about just about anything that interests me: movies, reviews, writing, travel, and cats.
Nice. Thank you very much. Thank you. You ladies added something great to this panel, so I'm so happy that and it was Stig's idea to invite. You guys were in the chat, invite you on, and I appreciate him for that. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for having us.
Yes,
of course.
Thank you.
Of course. Stig, what do you got?
Tiny YouTube channel that I don't really give a damn about, but I did upload a cat video today.
Yay!
people like it.
Yes.
It has a lot of views. I think you're gonna like it, Sporking, big time. And
I'll
Jayne
check
too.
it out. I'll check it out when I'm.
Yeah, other than that, I upload, funny stuff and old commercials and retro stuff on my channel that I just steal from somewhere. And I have a Twitter where sometimes I post funny stuff there too. Other times I scold dumbasses.
There you go.
Yeah. But
I love it.
you can usually find me on this channel or on Christie's channel for the Saturday movie talk thing. And on Thursdays at, I think it's 9 Pacific time, I'm on OG Star Wars' channel doing much like we're doing now, but we're talking about Star Wars expanded universe comics.
That's so cool.
That's very fun. And OG Star Wars is great at it. She knows her stuff.
Yeah, she does. Thank you, Stig. Thank you for coming on, man. It's not the same without you. I love doing this with you, man. Way everybody's minds work up here. I love it. It's so awesome. And I appreciate you, really. I do. And McKinney90, I appreciate you too for being a solid, always here in the chat, always taking care of, putting everybody's links out there. Make sure you put your own links out there, McKinney. And if you're available Wednesday, DM me and let me know for a news dump. I'd love to have you on. Thank you, everybody.
Bone in the chat has a comment for me, and I want to address that in the best way I can. And Bone, you're damn right.
Perfect way to end it, guys. Next week we are going right into the second book. What we're doing is we're going to do a little bit of one of the novellas, the Hedge Knight, and then we might even after the week after that just do a random theory for Winds of Winter. But we will be back with the next book, and I hope you all have a safe night and take care. We're putting a spork in it because we are done.